What's going on, guys? Aarava here, and today we're going to be talking about F1 2016, as you can see by the title. Obviously, there's been a bit of a trend now of making these videos in the community, so I thought I'd have my go at it. Also, you guys have been asking me quite a lot in my live streams recently about my thoughts on the new game, and I thought I'd save it for a video instead of answering them on live stream. So here you go, here's the video finally. So I'm going to split them up into two bits, but overall, as a whole, in like a little sentence really, I think F1 2016 it's going to be more about adding things back into the game that no one ever asked to be removed more than anything. Really, I don't think the F1 2016 needs to be about adding a whole lot of new features. I think they just need to bring back old ones that no one ever wanted to be removed in the first place, and then just consolidating what we have already, which is a very solid driving platform, but not a very fun game. F1 2015 just is a little bit lackluster as an actual video game, and more of just a, I don't know, driving demo of what they can do with the physics and whatnot. So I'm going to talk about offline first, but obviously for both offline and online, a big thing that no one ever wanted to be removed was the safety car. Now, that's been something that's very vocal in the community about adding it back in, and I agree that you can't really have an official F1 game without a safety car in the game. So I do hope that's a given that's going to be added back into F1 2016. I even talked to the old community manager, which was Lee Williams. He's now working at EA, and when I went to go do some work for EA with Need for Speed, I talked to him there about the safety car on F1 when he was, the community manager of Codemasters, and he told me that even he couldn't fathom why they removed it from the game, and he found it a tough time to answer our questions when he was the community manager about why it wasn't in the game. He really couldn't answer it because he himself didn't understand why it wasn't there. So it just goes to show that that was a very, very odd decision. I don't know really why the reasons were. Maybe we'll never find out. I don't think anyone's actually concretely said from Codemasters why that was the case, but I hope that that is a given that will be added back in. Now, going on to offline, I'm going to start with offline, then go to online. Both very equally important because you have offline, which is quite a big thing. It's probably the biggest played game mode for these F1 games, and it gives a little bit of longevity at the beginning of the game. But then you obviously have online, which gives longevity in the long run throughout the entire year, because then you have league races happening throughout the entire year. You have sprint modes happening the entire year. Whereas career mode, even on bigger games like FIFA, career mode gets boring after 5 months or 6 months, inevitably, because of the nature of offline gaming, because of the nature of offline games and sports games, but it is a very, very big integral part to the game. So offline, what do I think they need to do? I really think they just need to go back and look at what they've done before and just add some things back from their previous games. I don't think they actually need to go for big blockbuster features. I would love to, but obviously that's not the case. I think that's the wrong way to think about it. I think they need to consolidate and make a good foundation before they try and innovate, extra, new things that we haven't ever seen before. They need to consolidate their foundation, and how they do that is, I think, bringing back things like R&D, car progression into the career modes, because if you remember back to F1 2012, 3 years ago, that career mode had some fantastic car progression. And what that means is, if you don't know, basically you could progress your car's pace, your car's speed throughout the course of different seasons. Now, a good case of point was my Road to Glory series, where I was in a Marussia. Now, by the third season, I was still in a Marussia, but the car was capable of getting a legitimate pole and getting a legitimate win, because the car actually improved season on season. There was a really fantastic tiering system in F1 2012, where you had different tiers of cars all in three. So you had the top three, which would make up tier one, which was at the time Mclaren, Red Bull, and Ferrari, I think. And then the second tier was Mercedes, Lotus, and I want to say, I think Force India maybe. I might be wrong, but basically there was tiering systems, you see what I mean. And Marussia was in the last tier, obviously, tier 3 I think it was, or tier 4. And you could progress them up the tiers. So by the time I got to the third season in that F1 2012 career mode, the Marussia had climbed up to tier 1. Now, obviously, the car in a straight line was actually still quite slow in tier 1, but the thing that had actually physically changed that I could notice was the downforce levels. The car turned in a lot easier once it was in tier 1 compared to its beginning tier in season 1 of that career mode series I did, and I really think they need to bring that back. Obviously, there might be some restrictions with FOM. Maybe FOM don't like the fact you can take a lower team and make the car better, but it's a sports career mode. I mean, it just goes against the logic of what a sports career mode is meant to be. It's meant to be a progressive thing. It's meant to be you sort of start building on it and you start improving things. You know, if you look at FIFA, you know, you improve your players, you buy new players, or if you're doing a player career mode on FIFA, you know, you improve your play. Even like NBA or NHL, you're improving your team or your player. And I think it needs to be the same thing here. We need to improve our car via a tiering system, and on top of that, they need to add back the R&D, which will obviously help with that as well. Now, R&D was something they've taken out for F1 2015, and I thought was a good thing in the old games. Obviously, in the old games, it was a case of you did something in practice, like, you know, stay on a racing line for 80% of the lap for one lap in free practice, and then you got an R&D part. Although that may sound very simple, it is something that at least encourages people to play the game a bit more, and also encourages the game itself to progress, because your car is going to improve, and then hopefully by the end of the season your car is going to be faster and better than it was at the beginning of the season. And that's something that definitely did happen in the old F1 games that they need to add back into F1 2016. And that's really all the major things they need to add back into career mode to make it a good solid foundation. In terms of adding new features, I think it's too soon for them to start adding new features. In terms of, I think F1 2016 needs to be the solid foundation game that they can build on if they get a renewal of their license and go on to make more games. Obviously, there's so many ideas bouncing around in terms of what they should add into career mode, and I do get it. I do understand that. We would all love to have all these features added into career mode, but there's a lot of things they can't do right now because they have to, you know, consolidate stuff, and there's a lot of things they can't do because of FOM. So that's why I'm going to keep this video very much centered around what they need to add back in, and not really going for really out there ideas. I'm keeping very grounded on the ideas that I'm saying here, and putting back stuff like R&D and having car tiering really isn't a radical idea, and something they know how to do because they did it very well in F1 2012, and also they've done the R&D since F1 2010. So I don't know exactly why those were removed, but I really want them back in the career mode. And one last thing for offline, which everyone has been screaming for, is having a actual customizable career mode player to actually have your name in the game and have your helmet in the game, and like choose your own helmet, even from the very, you know, short selection of 16 helmets. Choose your own helmet, put in your own name into the career mode, and be yourself. Now, obviously, that is very difficult, I think, for the licensing. I don't know how. Now, obviously, I think that might be tricky for them because the way they've licensed F1 2015, and I think they're using the same licensing for F1 2016, which is the fact that because you can't be your own player, you're playing as a driver. They've been able to put all these cutscenes with the kind of podium and the kind of cutscenes in between each race and stuff. If there's some way they could negotiate that back into the game, that'd be great, because it just gives a little bit more of an immersive feeling to have your own name in the game and your own helmet in the game. I think in terms of presentation, I think the game is very solid. Obviously, there's different things I want them to add in, but as we're talking about more consolidating the game and not going for radical ideas, I think just a bit more variety in the cutscenes, the actual words David Croft says, or the words that anyone says in the career mode, even like Jeff the engineer. It'd just be nice to have a few different kind of phrases for saying the same thing. So finally, obviously, the last sort of thing you could ever talk about offline is obviously the handling and how the actual game drives. Now, I personally think that the handling, they pretty much need to leave alone. I think the handling is very solid. The handling's probably been the best it's ever been. Obviously, a few people will disagree. I've seen a few people on Twitter debating about the braking system on this game and whatnot. But I think, really, I think they should just leave it, just so they can focus on everything else, because there's a lot of other things that are far more important that they need to fix, whereas the handling, it's not broken. The handling's not like F1 2011, where it was clearly completely wrong, and it's, you know, very solid. So I think they need to do themselves some favors in terms of time's sake, and just leave it. Literally, just leave the code for handling. Leave it alone and concentrate on everything else. So with that, I hope that they leave the handling alone, take some time to add in the R&D stuff, the tiering system, and then also, I'm going to go on to now the online, and I hope they spend some time improving the online as well, because that is a huge part of the game's longevity. Obviously, career mode, yes, it may be the biggest game mode, but eventually, every career mode in any sports game will get boring up to a point, and then you need online to get you that bit further, to take you through the year till the next game. Now, games like FIFA do this brilliantly, but obviously it's a very different actual genre of game, so I understand it's never going to be the same sort of longevity as FIFA does, but really, they've taken out a lot of stuff from the online, which really never needed to be taken out. The new hopper system F1 2015, simply put it, is not great. It's really not great. It's just, it wasn't needed. It really wasn't needed. In the old games from F1 2012 to 2014, they had pretty much the same exact online system, which worked really, really well, which was a sprint mode game mode, so you clicked it and you just got chucked into a sprint mode lobby. Then you had custom races, so you would go in there, you could try and find a custom lobby on the list, or you can make your own. You can make it private, so you could do a league race with it, or you can make it open, so you could do an open lobby and just have random people join you. And that really worked. The hopper system really does not work. There's kind of two bad things with the hopper system at the moment. The first thing is the fact that it splits everyone up, obviously, because you can choose beginning, medium, and hard. So you're already splitting up people in different sections, so they can't find enough full lobbies. And I don't think I've ever found a full lobby on a hopper system. The most I've found on a hopper system lobby was about 8 people, and that was only because I told people on Twitter to search in that hopper. The second thing the hoppers did wrong, in my opinion, was just the rules of the hoppers. You know, you had the beginning hopper, which was, I believe, you know, there was some damage on. It was a 3-lap race, and, you know, it was equal cars and a random grid. And the rules just didn't make sense. I think we need to go back to the sprint mode way, where it was just a single button, you click sprint mode, and it chucks you into a sprint mode. The sprint mode rules are obviously visual damage only, so you can crash into other people, but you get no performance hit, equal cars, random things, and it's generally a 3-lap race, and that's good enough. And everyone gets bunged in, whether you're a beginner with, you know, no experience on the F1 game, or whether you're an expert and you played hundreds of hours on the game, you just get chucked into the same lobby. It's fine. I really think people just want to race other people. I don't think they mind too much if the skill level is a little bit different, because in the end, we all know how crazy a sprint mode is. You know that you're seriously not actually going to get a proper race in a sprint mode, so inevitably a high skill player could get taken out and a lower skill player could overtake him and win the race or go ahead of him. So really, I don't think there needs to be any sort of balancing act with who races with who, because it's a sprint mode. At the end of the day, you will get crashed out, there will be some lag, things will happen, you know, carbon fiber will flail, and really it will just be the good old sprint mode that all of us enjoy. So the second thing for me is the custom creator session, something they've actually added into a patch for the PC and PS4. The only thing is it's not actually been added in yet for Xbox One players. So Xbox One players, you're going to have to wait for that, but they definitely need to make that a thing from the get-go and not a patch a few months afterwards, which is just simply creating a lobby, either setting it private for league racing or open for, you know, if you just want random people to join. Obviously, you know, YouTubers want people to join their open lobby so you can create videos and whatnot and just have fun races. I think that a system like that is very, very simple to actually understand. It's not a too complicated system. You're just creating a lobby and either letting people join it freely or joining via an invite. And that was something that wasn't in the first kind of build of the game. It had to be patched in around December for the PS4 and the PC, and is yet to even be patched in for the Xbox One, which is a bit of a shame. And I think if you do that, I think if you just have a system like that where it's not a faff with hoppers, you'll see more and more people coming back to the online, because at the moment, to get a full, fun 16-player lobby on F1 2015, I've had to personally tweet out that I'm streaming, stream an open lobby and on PC, and then have people join that. And that's the only time I've ever seen a full 16-man lobby. I cannot get into a full 16-man lobby by not announcing anything and just searching myself as a player. Not even as a content creator, just as a player. If I was just playing on a random weekend, I couldn't find a full lobby unless a YouTuber was hosting an open lobby, which should not be the case. As much as I, you know, like the fact that, oh, plenty of people want to like race in open lobbies with me and other YouTubers, that's great. But the thing is, that shouldn't be how the game works. It should work by itself. Other players should be able to find other players without having to rely on a content creator making an open lobby. And so finally with online, just the racing itself, the actual lag with online and the racing. Obviously, league racing has not been possible in F1 2015 for many, many reasons. One of the biggest ones is the corner cutting system online. Now, big things for league races, obviously, is having a strict corner cutting rule for online, and that's something that should really be implemented. Now, they've put a 2-tier system, but I think they need 3 tiers. I think they need a super to the limit. You cross the white line, you're out. And that'd be amazing for league racers who want to do that kind of thing. Then you have like a mediocre kind of thing, which we have right now. And then we have a, you know, just go guns ablaze. Just sprint mode setting, basically, where nothing, you know, everything really goes. But I think they need those 3 different settings, because with the third setting, well, I mean the first setting I said, with the super strict one, that will allow proper league racing back on the game. They also need to sort out a few little issues with lag here and there. So I feel if they just put in measures to allow league racing, and remember, that measure I'm talking about is only one thing, and it is the actual proper penalty system for the corner cutting. That's actually all that needs to be added into online. That's what the league racers want. They want corner cutting not to be an issue, so that when they are competing at the highest level that you can on the game, there's no chance of anyone cheating by cutting a corner or anything like that. That's really the only thing. The lag on the game isn't actually too bad. The lag on this game is not too bad. The only thing I would say is contact system car to car is a little bit iffy at times. You know, there's been cases where it's a little bit like a sidepod glitch, where cars can get stuck to one another a little bit too easily, and you can't get away from another car if you're too close to them in a corner, and they kind of get stuck together. And then sometimes there's a little bit of an issue where no force feedback is given to the controller or the wheel when someone's being hit. But apart from that, that is actually it. Very simple things they need to make sure happen for F1 2016 for league racing to once again come back into play for F1 2016. So I think I've pretty much covered all I wanted to say in this video. So to summarize, for offline, I want them to add in more progression into the actual career mode. So bring back things like the tiering system from F1 2012, which worked beautifully, and adding back in the R&D testing as well to improve your car through the season. And finally, also, I have one more point, which I'm leaving to the end because this, I know, is not relevant to many people. This is only relevant to PC gamers who play F1 2015 or F1 games on the PC. For people who play it on PC, and for the actually quite large modding community for how big the game is, please, for God's sakes, please, Codemasters, can you not make modding the game a pain in the arse? Modding has only helped your game. Modding breathes life into your games. Modding adds a few more months of enjoyment onto your games if you allow people to mod it. So I please beg that you do not encrypt every single last bit of your game on the PC and allow people to mod the game like they have done from F1 2010 till F1 2014. It really will make a huge difference for your game, the way the game is around the PC community at least, for many, many months. It will really make a big difference. I think a big testament to that is that if you look on Race Department, the biggest area for looking at any kind of F1 mods, if you look on Race Department, there are only a handful of mods on F1 2015 that have been made, and they're not even huge ones. Whereas on F1 2014, people are still making new mods for that game. People are bringing out 2016 season mods for that game. People are making GP2 season mods for that game. Even I've made an entire series still on the F1 2014 game. So that's going to be it. Leave a like if you did enjoy the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do subscribe for weekly videos. Hopefully, if you guys were asking in the live streams for my opinions, there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. And I will see you guys next time. I've been aarava. Goodbye.